14 days. Since most of the past 14 days, a lot of activities were happening in the United Kingdom, and we didn't manage to accompany the president on that trip. The director will stay after his presentation to take questions so that we cover the 14 days, mainly those that were taken outside this country when the president was in the United Kingdom. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to welcome Mr. Sean Kampondeni, Executive Assistant to the President and Director of Communications. I thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Brian Banda, Press Secretary for the President, for the welcoming remarks, and very warm welcome to all of you members of the press. It looks like we have a full house today, and so that's good to see. We also welcome Malawians from all over the country, from the north to the south. Sanja Tuchitipa, thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing these engagements and giving you updates on the activities of the President. I do have a couple of announcements to make from the President's desk. The first is just to reiterate His Excellency's condolences to the families of the 21 individuals who lost their lives in that accident that happened in the deep south of the country, and a reminder to all Malawians that the President has declared a 48-hour period of mourning in solidarity with the people of Chikwawa who are in great distress. And so the President joins all Malawians of goodwill in mourning these losses. The President has also, in keeping with this two-day period of mourning, has declared that all flags fly at half-mast today, and so various MDAs, ministries, departments, agencies who do have national flags should see to it that they are complying with this order from the President. The President also expresses his thanks to development partners who have expressed solidarity and their condolences on this great loss. Of special note is the United States Embassy, which has announced this morning that it is also flying its flags at half-mast in compliance with the President's order, and the President is very grateful for this gesture. Second announcement has to do with the Press Secretary himself. A few months ago, the Press Secretary was offered a scholarship to go and study in a very special and prestigious program at Peking University. And this offer of study came from the Chinese government, and so the Chinese government requested if the Press Secretary would be allowed to take leave of his office in order to take advantage of this. The Press Secretary himself went and asked the President if he could take leave of his office in order to attend this special course, and the President was very delighted and happy for him. for this opportunity, and so the president acquiesced to his request and granted him that leave in order for him to attend to that. And so the press secretary will be flying to China for purposes of attending to that course. He leaves on Friday, and it's a 4-month course that starts at the beginning of September. And so it is going to run through the end of November. Now, since the period of his leave and departure is substantial and the president's press office cannot be left unmanned, the president will be naming an acting press secretary in due course, and that announcement will be communicated to the press corps once the president has settled on his candidate to serve as his press secretary in an acting capacity. And so I will furnish you with that information once I have it available. But suffice to say, I, for one, as Brian Banda's colleague over these past 12, 11 months or so, I'm happy for him and for the opportunity he has to go and further his capacities. And so anytime a Malawian gets an opportunity of this nature, it's worthy of celebration, because we know that when they come back, they will be able to make a greater contribution to the welfare of the country. So I just wanted to inform you formally that is our formal announcement regarding the press secretary. I am aware that it had made the news while the president was in London, that the press secretary was granted leave, and there were all sorts of speculations flying about. But what I have said about it from this podium is what is official. And so I do not want to contribute to the rumor mill and the gossip machinery that has gone into fever pitch to jump into all sorts of conclusions. And so at the moment, what I can communicate from the president's desk is that he has acquiesced to the press secretary's request to go to China and attend this course, and he will be naming an acting press secretary in due course. There may be questions that you would ordinarily field to the press secretary's office, and so until the president names an acting press secretary, the questions from the press will defer to my office. I believe that most of the members of the press have my contact details, and so until the president names a press secretary, I will be taking your questions until the president names an acting press secretary. And so whether it is questions that arise during the week, you can call me and I'll be able to furnish you with the president's position on any number of issues, but also during the course of this State House brief and other engagements that we might have together. I am at your service, and I will do my best to provide you with the information you need on the number of issues you might inquire about in a timely fashion, and I'm happy to assist in any way I can. So I thought I would just say something about that for clarity's sake. And then thirdly, the president is happy to be back home. I think he expressed those sentiments yesterday when he held a press briefing on his arrival from London. He held a 2-hour press briefing in the presidential briefing room at Kamuzu International Airport, and he took questions from the press on various issues, and he was happy to do so, and so he's grateful to be back here. Obviously, having come back, the president has kept his schedule for this coming week clear and fluid in order for him to be on hand to consult with those that are on the front lines of preparations for SADC. And so he is very keen to move things ahead. You might recall that yesterday the President delegated to the Vice President, Right Honorable Saulus Klaus Chilima, to work with the chair of the Malawi SADC National Planning Committee and other subcommittees that are working on preparations for SADC. He delegated to the Vice President to help with tying off loose ends, to quote the President directly, but also to put the finishing touches on preparations that are being made. And the President did indicate that one of the engagements he will take on over the course of the next few days is an inspection that he's going to personally do of the various strategic parts of the city's preparations for hosting the delegates that will be coming here to Malawi's capital to attend this 41st Ordinary Summit of heads of state and government from the 16 member states. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the go-to place for the press to get detailed information on especially the programming for SADC, and so I encourage you to do that. They do have a public relations office over there that would be more than happy to assist you with any information you might need about the program and what events will take place in a week's time while SADC is being hosted here. So I'll refer the questions and inquiries related to the programs of SADC to that office. Over the course of the past week, the President was in London. As you might recall, he left from Malawi on Sunday, a week ago, or a week and a day ago, and he arrived in London just shortly after noon on Monday, exactly a week ago. That day he took no official meetings except to rest as well as to receive a briefing from the High Commission of Malawi as well as the Ministry of Education, which had two officials on the entourage. For your information, the President's delegation was confined to 10 people. These restrictions were decided by the British government because they were the ones who decided which countries would have to attend the summit virtually and which countries would be invited to attend in person. Malawi was one of the few that was invited to attend in person, and the information did come from the British government as to how many people the President could have accompany him. And so the President and First Lady both had one assistant with them, and then there were two security officers on the entourage, and there was the Chief of Protocol, who always travels with the President on international trips, the Chief of Staff, and the President's physician also travels with the President, and then the Minister of Education, since the President was traveling for an education summit, as well as the Principal Secretary for Education. Those were the 10 individuals, and one official from Foreign Affairs. And so these are standard roles that the President would have on his entourage, and any head of state would have the same wherever they traveled. So that is, because I think it was during the course of this trip that there were some interest and inquiries as to the roles that were present on the president's entourage, and those were the roles. While in London, the president took on 17 to 20 engagements of different kinds. I believe that there is no need for me to belabor the point as to what engagements he took on, because those were thoroughly covered at the press briefing yesterday. There was a ministerial statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that covered the length and breadth of the different engagements the president took on. If there are specific questions about any one of those engagements, I am more than happy to provide any further information regarding the same. I think the ministerial statement also covered engagements taken by the First Lady as well as the Minister of Education, who accompanied the president on the trip. In his statement yesterday, the president did give the press as well as the country a heads up about upcoming trips that the president will undertake. I think he mentioned that he does have an engagement in South Sudan sometime this month, because as you might recall, on the 1st of January, the countries of the African Union ratified the African Free Trade Area, but no trade deals have yet been effected under that free trade area. And the first one is going to be taking place between Malawi and South Sudan. And so the Minister of Trade, Honorable Sosthene Gwengwe, and the officials from his ministry have been working hard to arrange the modalities of this, and so the signing has taken place. But because this is the first of its kind on the African continent, and Malawi is spearheading this movement, the president has been invited by the Secretariat of the Africa Free Trade Area to be present when the goods that have been dispatched from Malawi to be exported. The president, ever since he was leader of opposition, has always championed increasing Malawi's exports in order to correct the imbalance between imports and exports. And so the president is going to be present for that particular launch later this month, the date of which will be provided to you once the logistics have been finalized. He indicated also that next month there is the UN General Assembly. Last year, the president attended virtually. We have some indication from New York, United Nations, that the president is likely to be requested to attend in person this year. And so details of that will be furnished to you once those arrangements have been finalized, but that would be next month. And then in November is the climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland. And the president, in his discussion with Prime Minister Boris Johnson, they spent a great deal of time discussing issues to do with climate change, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson expressed very strongly his desire to work closely with the president on the scaling up of green technology usage in Malawi. And so they will be discussing those things going forward, but they had agreed that they should make further progress on these matters to do with climate change at the COP26 in Glasgow. So the president is looking forward to that, and also at the same time to leverage the partnership between Malawi and Scotland, which is one of the strongest bilateral relations Malawi has on the European continent. Meanwhile, in January, the president is going to be is expected to attend the conference in Doha by the LDCs, the least developed countries This is the 5th conference of its kind, and obviously the president is because he's the chair of LDCs, which is a 46-member grouping of countries. He will be chairing those proceedings, and the government of Qatar is going to be hosting that particular event, and the president will be presiding over that as chair. And so these are upcoming international engagements the president has, and yesterday he mentioned them in passing, just so that you would have a heads up and know what each of those is about. So this particular week, the president is focused on SADC preparations, and he has also delegated some responsibilities to the vice president to also assist with SADC preparations. And there is some indication that one of a cabinet member of the British government is going to be in town, and there may be a courtesy call between that particular minister and the president when they arrive. And so we will furnish you with the details of the same once we have those. But for purposes of this briefing, I would just say that the president's schedule this week is going to be focused on checking up on preparations being made for SADC and any other things that the president wishes to take on. But he's leaving his schedule open. Now, obviously, also, because the president was away from his desk for a week, he does have some memos that he needs to attend to, decisions that different ministries and agencies of the state require the president's signature on, so he will be attending to those. So, in brief, on these matters and any others that you may have interest in. I thank you. Members of the press, I am ready to take your questions. If you could introduce yourself and the media house you represent, and then I'll take your questions. If we could furnish the gentleman with the mic, so that, yeah, I don't think your mic is on.
Good day, Madoka from Nation Publications Limited. A couple of questions. Number one, I think it's the front page story which we have published today to do with how a bill which was supposed to help in financing of State House in this bill. So I think, how do we intend to remedy the situation now that it's in public domain that procedures were flouted? Number two, I just wanted a bit of clarification on the development which you talked about, the press secretary's trip to China for 4 months. The public at large is wondering that at the time when the administration is keen to communicate its strategy and its successes and things which it's conducting, why would the president sanction the departure of his mouthpiece at this crucial period for a placement at university in China? So I just wanted to find out the rationale of releasing the press secretary at this particular time. And again, connected to this is you're indicating that he's going to come back, but an acting person will be appointed in his place during this period. Do you think this is a prudent way of utilizing state resources, that the government has a capacity to retain the current press secretary, but at the same time it's hiring another individual to come in his capacity during this period, at a time we are all preaching about financial prudence? So I think that's the gist of my questions.
Thank you, Golden, and those are legitimate questions to ask. I thank you. we are grateful for the Nation publication and its vigilance, as always. The President did take note of your publication of that story regarding, I believe it's called the Loan Authorization Bill. Is that correct? Yeah, the Loan Authorization Bill, and and the Nation publication is reporting that this bill made it to Parliament and seemed to have escaped the notice of the Minister of Justice and had been, well, not necessarily escaped the notice, but rather had been taken to Parliament without passing through those channels that it would normally pass through, the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General, and so forth. Now, the story states that it made its way there through that would usually be involved in that. So that's the gist of the story as it is presented in the Nation publication. Your question is, what is State House's comment on the same, but also how does the President intend to remedy the situation? Now, I must say that the President took note of the fact that the story does not name the State House official, but it does quote the individual as having confirmed that, yes, he or she was involved in this development. So in the absence of the identity of the individual that is supposed to have been involved in this, the President is very keen to engage his advisory unit. As you know, the President has chief advisors on the one hand, and then he also has special advisors that advise him on developments taking place in different sectors of society and how he should respond. in his absence. And so it's the same thing essentially from the top of the governance structure to the bottom, really. The president was gone for a week in London, but that does not mean that that was the end of the presidency. The presidency continues even in the absence of a member of the presidency. And so this is how governance institutions work, which is why the president is taking immediate measures to ensure that the role of press secretary or mouthpiece for the president is not left vacant and unattended to, because the institution must continue because it's not personal to Holder. Essentially, to put it another way, the functions of the press secretary belong to the Malawian people, and the Malawian people deserve to be served by a mouthpiece of the president who furnishes them with information in a timely fashion, regardless of whether it's one individual or another. The second point that's worth saying also is that because the governance framework is so vast, the government has more than one mouthpiece. And so there is no deficiency in the distribution of information related to the government's agenda in the absence of one mouthpiece that has taken leave. We have the Ministry of Information that is also a government mouthpiece. All of the ministries across Capitol Hill, with a few exceptions, maybe with the exception of one or two, have public relations offices that furnish the public with information and are regularly cited by media houses and press publications related to a number of issues. And so, which is why even from this podium, there are certain things that we are not best placed to address, and we usually refer you to the government mouthpiece that is strategically positioned to dispose of such. And so I would say that the best way to look at this is that the government has various avenues of engaging with the public and so forth, and the departure of one particular member from that does not mean that that place is left with a gap, especially if the president is going to take measures immediately to see that gap filled. Nor does it mean that that's the only mouthpiece the government has, because the government is more robust than that. And so the president is not concerned about being left at a disadvantage in terms of his ability to communicate with the public about his agenda. Lastly, I would say also that the president is also fully equipped to communicate with the public himself. You noted that yesterday for 2 hours or so, he took on a number of questions and disposed of them himself with great dexterity and fluency. And so the president, ultimately, he is the chief minister of information of his own administration, and he's the press secretary in chief. So you know, even if there was no mouthpiece for the administration, the president would be fully capable of informing the public of what is going on in his own administration. And so he does not anticipate that his administration will be left at a disadvantage in this regard. Now, you asked a question about the prudence of having an acting press secretary at a time when fiscal controls are being advocated by various quarters, including the president himself. Yeah, I mean, the thing that's of primary importance to the Malawian president regarding his service to the Malawian people is that he, you know, one of the things that he has championed throughout the campaign as well as throughout his presidency is his philosophy of servant leadership. And so what the president is very keen to do is to ensure that there is no stoppage of the delivery of public service to the Malawian people. And so, as far as the president is concerned, any resources that are channeled towards the delivery of public service should not be regarded as a waste of money. And so the president fully supports the approach of putting control measures on the spending of the government in order to avoid wastage of public resources. And as far as is concerned, public resources that are spent on other matters other than the improvement, delivery, and execution of service to the Malawian people are not resources that are wasted. Those are resources that are put to good use. And so the president fully supports fiscal prudence when it comes to removing wastage from the spending habits of the administration. But he does not believe that delivering public service, such as the regular flow of information to the Malawian people about how their government is serving them, even if it is through a current press secretary or an acting press secretary, that is being done in order to make sure that public service delivery is not interrupted. Those are not resources the president considers to be wasted. Now, I think that's an important point to make, Golden, because I think sometimes there can be agitations in the public, allergies to seeing the administration spend any money. But ultimately, the Malawian people are faithful in paying taxes, and they should be commended for that. And the best way for any president to commend the Malawian people for the taxes they pay is to make sure that those taxes are used strictly for the delivery of public service to those Malawian people. Now, there are various kinds of public service, and the accessibility of to say related to that. Thank you for your question. Yes, sir, and then we will take one from the lady. I will take them in a row, and then I will answer both. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Weston Guta. I'm from
Your name is?
Weston Guta.
Weston.
Yes, from Zodiac.
From Zodiac?
Zodiac, yes. I've got a couple of questions. Number one is the Global Education Summit may have not come. Right. The Global Education Summit may not have come at a better time, but how does the president hope that other than money pouring in from development partners, this trip will help enhance quality of education in the country? How does the president think that the trip will help to enhance quality education in the country? The second one is, it's a fact that mission primary and secondary schools and now even universities are shining, are doing better in terms of quality education in this country. What does the president think these schools are doing right that public schools are not? And knowing that the president himself is coming from the ministry. The second question is on COVID. How much money is this administration now committing to acquisition of vaccines, and how soon, considering all we are getting are donations? And is there any figure available somewhere that State House can or government can tell us? The last one, the president gave a clear position on the matter. Actually, I wish to ask now, but this question is going to the PR team. You told us that the president had appointed her daughter to the mission in Brussels because she was competent. seen, has already been discussing actually. So the question is, were you just
sought clarification from this podium, because it did confirm to us that Viret has been appointed. So we just wanted clarification. Did this podium lied to Malawians, or maybe the decision has been changed because of some other issues that are coming out from the public? My second question is, it was mentioned yesterday that it will cost Malawians 4 billion kwacha for the coming SADC summit. I just wanted to find out, is government ready to share the expenditure plan just for Malawians to appreciate how this 4 billion is going to be used? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah. The question that you have asked, Weston, from Zodiac, you have asked a question about how the president hopes the trip he took to London will enhance education quality. I believe that the president, yesterday the president made it very clear that both through the ministerial report that came from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as through his own statement, and the questions, subsequent questions that he took following that statement. The president is hopeful not only that the trip to London will translate to the improvement of quality of education in Malawi, but also accessibility of education. You might recall that it was revealed yesterday that following the president's interaction with the Secretary of State, the British Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Mr. Dominic Raab, as well as the president's own engagement with the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the British government committed to 37 billion kwacha in assistance to go towards the education sector, especially the strengthening of the teaching of math, as well as addressing some of the obstacles in the education of girls, which is also something the First Lady, Her Excellency, Madam Monica Chakwera, is a big champion of. And so those are examples of the ways in which the President feels that this trip would translate into improvement of the same. But it's also important to note that the President has an all-of-the-above approach to addressing educational issues in the education sector. Not too long ago, the President was launching the another program which was supported by the U.S. government for the construction of some 230 to 250 secondary schools. And so those are programs the President supports in order to increase access to education for lots of people who currently do not have that access. And so for a Malawian family in Jinji, in Kasungu, in Mulanje, in Nsanje, in Chitipa, in Karonga, a family, a household that has children, number one, will be very concerned about whether those children are going to have a place in school. And so the construction of facilities for education are some of the things the President is going to be directing and channeling these resources towards. Another concern that all of those families will have is whether those schools have qualified teachers standing in front of the children. The quality of a child's education is affected by the quality of teaching that that child is sitting under. And so the President has made it clear that some of these resources will go towards the training of teachers and the improvement of the welfare of teachers and so forth. A third concern that a family in Mzuzu or Blanta or Zomba will have is when my child goes to that school, is there going to be teaching materials at that school? And so some of these resources would go towards that. Is there a lab at that school for the study of science subjects? Are there books, textbooks? Are there calculators, pencils, pens, and so forth? These are the things that are very critical to the education of children. Fourthly, a family that has children will be concerned about the social support system a child needs in order to succeed in an education system. And so that's something else that some of these resources will go towards, which is one of the things that actually affects girls, is that there are so many social dynamics that prevent girls from being able to leverage the education opportunities around them, and those roadblocks need to be lifted. And so some of these resources would go towards that. So these are just examples of some of the areas in which the President hopes the contacts as well as the resources and partnerships that have been secured during this trip would go towards. But he's not just hoping that this will happen. This is what he is determined to see happen, because this is very high on the President's agenda. He has made it very clear that his administration wants to build capacity of Malawi's citizen in order to make the most of the opportunities that are available to them. That also indirectly answers your question about what the President do right. The capacity building of teachers, the procurement of the timely procurement of teaching materials, and making sure those schools have the equipment that they need, and accessibility of the teaching, of the education, of school accessibility. the washing of hands and sanitization of hands on a regular basis. These remain critical preventative measures for fighting against COVID. Now, obviously, there is also the issue of the fight against COVID in relation to treatment centers. The treatment centers that the Chakwera administration, at the president's orders, constructed in record time, continue to provide those services. And so sometimes it's easy to imagine that COVID money that has been designated for the fight against COVID is not doing anything. But if you talk to anybody that has gotten COVID, they will tell you, or anybody that has recovered. By the way, I believe it's over 80% of people in Malawi that have gotten infected with COVID ever since the first cases were reported in April 2020 have recovered. Now, people need to remember how those recoveries happen. They do not happen by witchcraft. They happen because people that are found with COVID or infected with COVID, they go to a health facility where President Chakwera has taken COVID money and directed that it be used for the treatment of patients. So when you get COVID and you go to a health facility, the medicines you receive, the health officials who will see you there, the treatment that will be administered to you, the food you will consume while you are under that treatment, all of that is coming from the COVID funds that the president directed be used for that purpose. And so sometimes people rush to say COVID money is just being wasted. But 85% of the people infected with COVID in this country have recovered because of the proper use of COVID-19 funds at the directive of this president. And that is something that is not acknowledged enough, and it needs to be said. Okay. There was a question, as I wrap up here, about appointment of the president's daughter to Brussels, which the president said is not true. That position remains the same. That not only is it not true now that the president's daughter is going to Brussels, but it has always been untrue that the president's daughter is going to Brussels. It was untrue yesterday, it was untrue last week, it was untrue 2 weeks ago, and it will be untrue 2 weeks from now that the president's daughter has been appointed to Brussels. And the president has made that position very clear. So there is nothing else to be said about whether that's true or not. It's always been untrue. Now the question was, did this podium lie to Malawians by confirming? I'll actually put it to you that this podium never confirmed that the president's daughter has been appointed to Brussels. If you recall 2 weeks ago, the question was asked by a journalist in this press call. We hear that the president's daughter has been appointed to Brussels. Does this mean the president is walking away from his commitment to not practice nepotism? The question was never whether it's true. If the question had been asked of the press secretary, is it true that the president's daughter has been appointed to Brussels? The press secretary would have answered that question definitively in the negative, to say, no, that's not true. But that wasn't the question that was asked, and I believe it was the journalist from The Nation, Gordon, who actually asked that question. That was not his question. And so this podium, through the press secretary or anybody else, never said, yes, it's true, the president's daughter has been appointed to Brussels, because that was never the question. His question, and you have to respect the journalist from The Nation, by answering the question he asked. His question was, has the president walked away from his commitment to not practice nepotism? And that is the question the press secretary answered, because it would be disrespectful for the press secretary to answer a question that has not been asked. He answered the question that was asked, which was, is the president abandoning his commitment to not practice nepotism? And he said, the president isn't abandoning his commitment against nepotism, and even in the event that the president appointed a member of his family, or rather to put it more accurately, or if it turned out that a ministry of government has appointed a member of his family to some post, speaking hypothetically, it is unjust to say that the president is abandoning his commitment to fight against nepotism because he has made over 2,000 appointments, and what you need to do is to look at all of those appointments and see if a pattern of nepotism emerges. And the answer to the question is no, there is no pattern of nepotism in the 2,000 plus appointments that the president has made directly. But yesterday, the president then made it clear that in regard to foreign missions, the president only appoints the heads of mission and the deputy heads of mission. And you can look at the heads of mission and the deputy heads of mission and assess whether in any of those the president has practiced nepotism. And the answer is still going to be no to Gordon Matonga's question. Does the president practice nepotism? So no, this podium never lied to Malawians, because this podium never said or confirmed the same, even though there are some who have advanced that we stood on this podium and said, yes, the president has appointed his daughter to Brussels. That was never said from this podium. You can go and review the footage, as I do every time we finish these programs on a regular basis, and you will not hear those words from the mouth of the press secretary. And we should not put those words in the mouth of the press secretary. Okay? So thank you, Leah, for your question, but hopefully that is clear from that perspective. And then lastly, to your question, is the administration going to release the expenditure report on the 4 billion or so that is expected to be spent on SADC hosting? And as I said at the beginning, that information will likely be available to you at the appropriate time should you consult the Public Relations Office at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the responsible ministry overseeing all arrangements being made for the SADC summit. And so you are welcome to ask them at what point they will have that information readily available, and how you can access the same, because that information would not be available here at State House, because technically State House is not the responsible governance institution. It's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that's overseeing those matters. Now, we have gone over time by 5 minutes, and I want to thank the media houses that continue to provide us with airtime for free. NBC, thank you. Zodiac, thank you. Times Television, thank you. And we are so grateful for all of these things that you do for the Malawian people in order to be of service to them. And so if I have left another media house, I apologize for that. I will acknowledge you next time. But I think we should commend these media houses for allowing these press briefings to be aired on their platforms at no cost to the Malawian people, and that is no small gift. I would like us to close our time by just allowing the press secretary to say a few final words before he takes leave at the end of the week. Otherwise, I'll allow him to close the show, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Sean, Executive Assistant to the President and Director of Communications. As you have been told by the Director, I will be leaving this Friday for China. I would like to thank you very much, members of the press, for coming. And I would like to thank the Malawian people for tuning in to these shows, these programs. President Chakwera believes in the freedom of the press. My humble call is that let us always cross-check facts. Before you put anything on television, in newspaper, or on your Facebook page, let us always cross-check facts. In that way, we will save the Malawian people. Thank you very much and have a good day.